DSPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
Greetings, everyone, and thanks for joining us again. If you like listening to what we're producing here at the DSPN, and if you like what you're seeing as well, don't forget to like us, to subscribe, to follow, to share it, to tell all your friends about it, especially on the YouTube channel DSPN. Click subscribe. That really does help us. We welcome back Justin Marshall, 81 Test veteran of the All Blacks, to have a good long look at what this season has shown us, what we have learned from it, and expectations for next year. Justin, g'day. Thanks again, mate.
Yeah, g'day, Marty. It's good to be back on with you, and absolutely, it's incredible to think the year has passed us by. The rugby season has passed us by, with the Blues being champions for the first time in a while, and equally the All Blacks under Scott Robertson for his first, I guess, combative season as All Black coach, with a lot of challenges in front of him, 15 test matches, and it's hard to believe we're done and dusted.
Don't forget Wellington winning the NPC too, mate. Shout out.
Oh, did they? Yeah, very remiss of me not to mention that. My apologies. Well done, Wellington. Absolutely.
Look, let's flush the dunny and move on from Italy, to quote the dear old Shag, because that performance at the end of the year, that was probably one of the worst of the All Blacks. But let's put it in totality. And one great thing that I love hearing from any All Black coach, and this is every All Black coach, is Scott Robertson saying there are no excuses. So first and foremost, that's what we want. We want honesty. We want some transparency. We want to be able to sit down and have adult discussions and conversations about, okay, where exactly are we at? So let's start with the pass mark for the whole year.
Oh, look, I feel if we're thinking about the All Blacks and the ruthlessness of the All Blacks and our history, you know, we are quite demanding in the All Blacks winning every test match that's put in front of them, and you and I have been advocates of that, that we don't want to target Rugby World Cups and start building towards them. We want to make sure we preserve what we've done over 100 years. So you'd have to say that it's very hard to give it more than a sort of 7 for the year, given the test matches that we did drop, 4 of them in a calendar year, and again, another one against Argentina. Those are test matches that unfortunately they do hurt you, and they do eventually take toll when you're looking at a successful pass mark for the year. So I still do feel that the results, some of them could have gone either way, and it could have been a completely different season. And it's not been a disaster, but it's not probably at the usual standard we'd expect of our All Black sides.
Justin, I want to go straight to the backline, because I hope you agree. I think the forward pack has actually shown huge signs of improvement. Look, first phase, we're really impressive these days. We're strong, we're aggressive. We've got some depth there, especially around loose forwards. Maybe not hooker at the moment, but Tupu Vai's come on, all of these things. But our backline, we just seem so muddled and confused. Individually, all of these guys are fantastic players. Why can't we get that aspect of our play right?
Look, I just feel that there's just been a reshuffle in terms of players that have had, I guess, opportunities to be in the All Black jersey, particularly over the last 2 or 3 years, have now found themselves under a new coach put in different jerseys. They might have been part of the starting lineup. Now, obviously, Damien McKenzie and Bowden Barrett are 2 of those players, but equally so is Will Jordan. And then the re-emergence of Caleb Clark. Mm-hmm. And then probably nobody really nailing down that other wing position. Probably the most consistent selected for the year, you would have to say, was Rieko Ioane, but that didn't come without a little bit of criticism as well. And then halfback with Roygaard being out. We've been down the pathway of Cortez Atama. Finlay Christie was involved early in the year. He then found himself no longer there, and TJ Perenara, obviously at the end of his career. So when you go through all of those names and look at it, great All Black teams, we know this, Marty, great All Black teams, you could name that starting backline every weekend. Right. Bar injury, they were rocking the same players out. And, you take players out of the mix like an Aaron Smith, it's going to have an effect, and not only efficiency in the way the team plays and a certain player plays that makes the team function, but equally experience and decision-making, that's a big chunk as well. So, yeah, I certainly think the personnel is there. We just quite haven't found our mojo as of yet as to what that starting backline looks like and get them playing consistently together.
So yeah, it's look.
That's a very big sigh.
Well,
it's a big sigh, Marty. I was obviously unconvincing.
No, look, it is because, as I say, we've got the players there, and it's normally the one area that, if the All Blacks are lacking or unconvincing, you don't worry about the backs. They take care of themselves. It's the forward pack that you look at, and that's the one, as I say. Would you agree that we've made? Well, I don't know whether great strides is the right way to put it, but we certainly made strides, and we've certainly improved in that area. I would put us up against anyone forwards now, anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think equally what the All Blacks this year have tried to figure out, and I can see that unfolding for them. We're not quite there yet, but a big frustration in 2023 was our inability to break apart that very blitz-style aggressive defence. We got around a lot of those teams which were causing us problems. We learned a lot from the English Test series. We learned a lot about the South Africans, but we scored tries against them, particularly at Ellis Park. And,
true.
So, Ireland equally, we found points in the outside channels and we opened up their defence, where in previous years we've really struggled. So you've got to take that as a positive. And a big part of that, I think, was the work being done by that forward pack you mentioned that is competitive with every big forward pack out there in the year. The emergence out there regularly, the emergence of Wallace Tatiti, Tupu Vai, as you said, the way that Tamaiti Williams has come on and Tyrell Lomax playing some great rugby, Cody Taylor equally. You've got a real powerful forward pack there, and I think them delivering probably better, cleaner ruck ball, but equally doing their part and making sure that they're fatiguing defenders so that the backs, when they do get the opportunity, are playing against players that are not as have much gas in the tank as what that they would usually have, because they're having to work hard to contain our forward pack. So, look, the balance is there. We've got the personnel. We just have to try and now turn that into leadership, to experience, and then get ruthless like the Springboks at winning Test matches that are there to be won, because there was a handful of them there this year that we struggled with or lost, and we shouldn't have.
When we talk about strength and depth, and one thing that Scott Robertson has raised as well, look, and it's always going to be a topic of conversation, isn't it, is do we go overseas, do we follow the SAFA model, and do we start picking players that are playing in other competitions in other countries? Obviously, Richie Mwanga is the one that springs to mind first, because first five we haven't got sorted at the moment. Scott Robertson says he wants to raise this with the New Zealand Rugby Board. We've talked about this many times. Have you changed your view at all? Is it time that... Well, it's just we just got to be brave. We just got to be open to the idea more than anything else, maybe. Or maybe it's a case-by-case basis. New Zealand Rugby can change the rules anytime they goddamn want. We know that. So, long-winded way of asking you, are you in favour of it or not, mate?
Yeah, of course. But with the New Zealand Rugby Union being the governing body, they make decisions for the best interest of New Zealand rugby. And we've got to look now at what those best interests are, and are we competing with the rest of the world on a regular basis? Are we improving enough in our way that we have our structures, or we have the decisions that we make? And one of them is around not allowing players that are playing outside of New Zealand to come back and play for the All Blacks. And there's only once that I've ever felt differently about it, and that's when I went overseas and I thought, yeah, hell yeah, that's a hell of a good idea, but I wasn't for it then. But my perspective has changed. Like I just see the success of what South Africa are doing. I feel that we're not talking the magnitude that they have of players leaving and not playing rugby in South Africa and coming back. There's probably not even a handful of All Blacks that would have gone into Scott Robertson's side, but you probably would have considered Shannon Frizzell. You certainly would have considered Aaron Smith and Richie Mo'onga, and possibly a Lester Whainganuku. And that might be all that you would do that with. But in a long-winded way to balance out your long-winded answer question with an answer that long as well, Marty, is we also have to think about the state of the game. And if we can allow other countries to pay our top All Blacks who have been here for a decade or more, but are still good enough to play for the All Blacks and come back and put that jersey on and perform like they did when they were playing rugby in New Zealand, and we can ease the pressure financially, but equally put that money into developing some of our younger players, then we're winning, if you ask me. And I think that's really opened my eyes as to where I think we need to go and what direction we need to go in. At the end of the day, if Ardie Savea is overseas and earning 3/4 of his salary cap from New Zealand and in Japan or in Europe, but we know that he comes back to New Zealand and he'll still play like Ardie Savea, well, we're not really missing out because he's given his service to his super franchises and provincial rugby.
Maybe it's the Giteau rule where, you've played a certain amount of tests. I'm sure that they can figure it out. We've got 2 to go, and one of them is thorny, one of them is easy. We'll start with the easy one. Expectations for next year are what? For me, it comes down very simply to those 2 South African tests. We've got to take care of business. I don't want to lose that record at Eden Park. I'm sure the All Blacks, that's uppermost in their minds as well. But that's the measuring stick again, is it not?
Absolutely it is. And, what next year will unfold will be what have we learnt from this year? How much pressure are certain players under to deliver again in the All Black jersey, and do they need to go out and earn it again? Absolutely. And then equally, yes, finding that ruthless edge to winning test matches, and then getting to the point where we're no longer making excuses. To a degree, I think we've come a hell of a long way as a country because we're actually reasonably acceptable of our All Blacks losing test matches.
Well, I don't know whether we've come a long way, whether we've regressed on that. I don't know either. I'm one of those guys who's back there on this, mate. So,
there's still that certain majority of people that are still pissed off or don't like the All Blacks losing, but for some reason move on for it quicker. Like you used to hang on to that for quite a long time, a week or 2. Now we just need to moan for a couple of days and go, oh well. Yeah. So I don't know if that's helping because that edge was always there as an All Black. You knew if you dropped a test match, it was going to be an unpleasant couple of weeks walking around in the public. So but look, in terms of next year, how does it unfold? It's about getting that hunger back to refuse to allow the opposition to beat us and to put that fear back in them that you might be having a good day, but we're still going to keep coming, and eventually we're going to win the test match, and you'll wonder why. But that's what's going to make us good again, and that's what's going to make us the best in the world. And we've got to find that within ourselves.
All right, then. Thorny topic, obviously, is TJ Perenara and the politicising of the haka, and that's one way of putting it. Other people just say he's got every right to do it. Look, you played 81 tests for the All Blacks. For what it's worth, my view is simply this. The All Blacks are New Zealand's team. They've always been New Zealand's team, and they represent all New Zealanders. And that means to me that we can have differing opinions about all kinds of things, whether it's political or whether it's your thoughts on pronouns or whatever it is. When it comes to the All Blacks, we all put that black jersey on, and this is what unites us as a country. And especially when you go overseas, the one thing I love about being overseas is as soon as you say New Zealand, the words All Blacks are almost the second thing out of your mouth, or the haka or something like that. And so I identify the All Blacks as a completely New Zealand team, and everyone is allowed to be an All Blacks fan. TJ is, David Seymour is, everyone in the middle. I don't care what your view is. And so as an 81 Test veteran of the All Blacks, how do you feel about what he did and whether the All Blacks should be being used like that as, I don't know, not as a political weapon, but just as a way to espouse causes? I just hope, I've always hoped that this is the only team in New Zealand that we can all be New Zealanders and can be one with. It sounds airy-fairy, I know, but hopefully I've explained that. And I don't want to put you in a situation, mate, because I know that, what you say, people are going to look at and go, well, Justin Marshall said this. So if you don't want to talk about it, I'm happy with that as well.
No, well, when you said a thorny one, you weren't lying, were you? That's for sure. But look, at the end of the day, what I can't fault is TJ Perenara's passion, and the passion that he's put into the All Black shirt and the time that he's been in it. No one could question that, and no one could question the way that he goes out and represents not only the All Blacks, but equally his history, his background, his culture, and he's always done that with the utmost respect for where he's come from and for New Zealand and what we represent. But I'm on the page that's well and good, and you see that in the way he plays for the All Blacks and the way that he leads the haka or performs the haka. But anything else in terms of anything to do that's not about the All Blacks, that's to be done in your own personal time. Like that is something that I feel shouldn't be part of the team making any form of statement to any part of New Zealand in any way. Like that is something that's probably just taking slightly a little bit of an advantage of the fact that you're able to do it. But nobody should be able to have that right. I think it's something that you should just keep to yourself, and in your own personal time, have your views for sure. Be strong, but make sure that they are in the right space.
Appreciate your honesty. Appreciate everything you've done for us all year, mate. We can take a little break now. Rugby, yeah.
What a year.
It's been great,
You're not coming to me when the cricket season starts, Marty? I used to be right arm fast, sort of middle or better.
Yeah, well, we'll see how we go in the first test against the Poms, mate. You might get a call up after that. Thanks, Justin.
Cheers, mate. It was a pleasure.
DSPN.